What if Anfernee Simons actually clicks in Boston? And is one championship enough for Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum? Would it be a failure if they didn't win another? A mailbag episode right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Yup. Beantown, be ever ready. It's the C's. Who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis. We kept the madness every game, every practice. Primetime Depp and D White on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked On Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Your team is the Boston Celtics, and I talk about them Monday, supposed to be Monday through Friday, starting in September 8th, actually. So for the next couple of weeks, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, regardless, plenty of free podcasting, more free podcasting you're going to find anywhere else. So subscribe wherever you get your podcast, watch the show on YouTube, get into the comments section, share your thoughts with your fellow Celtics fans, and with me, John Karalis. I'm a beat writer covering the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I've written a couple of books about the Boston Celtics. I've covered this team in some form for about 20 years now. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. It's a mailbag episode. It's a Mailbag Monday. Those questions can come in at johnkaralis.com/mailbag. Get those questions in. During the offseason, when there's not much happening on the outside, these questions come in and they make up the Mailbag Monday episode. During the course of the season, I still take questions. It's just not regularly on Mondays. It just happens from time to time during the season. So still, johnkaralis.com/mailbag, and we're going to get the mailbag started. Well, later on, we'll talk about whether the Celtics are a failure in this Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown era if they don't win another championship. That's in the third segment. In the second segment, we'll talk about steps the Celtics need to take to prepare for the future. But we're going to start with Tim, who says, engage with me in some wishful thinking. What if Anfernee Simons really clicks with Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and everybody? Well, that would be something. What if he really clicks? What would that mean, first of all? Because you can really click and play well and be a part of a functional offense, but is he going to be defensively what they need him to be? If somehow the Simons, Jaylen, Derek White combination ends up being really, really good, and if we're engaging in some wishful thinking, Jayson Tatum comes back. We talked about this multiple times. Talked about it last week on the podcast. Jayson Tatum comes back, sometime February, March, whatever, is somewhat of a contributor in the playoffs. There is a super mega optimistic, super wishful thinking scenario where it's like, wow, everything went more right. Not even as well as you could expect. It went better than anybody expected. If Simons clicks, then hey, great. Then that's amazing, and you've got your guy. And now it does create a scenario of, do you extend Anfernee Simons? So the next step is, what kind of contract does he get? Are the Celtics prepared to offer him a contract that represents him clicking with the team? And are they going to push back into maybe not second apron territory, but closer to second apron territory? Are they willing to push deeper into the tax again because Simons just happens to be the right fit? Now, this is wishful thinking. I'm not expecting it. I do expect flaws in his game. I expect that his time in Portland has been indicative, but it's also been kind of messy in Portland, and he hasn't been part of a franchise like Boston where there is something different about walking in and seeing the banners and being on the parquet and playing in the Garden. It is different. Players have said that when they've come through. It is just a little bit different. And it's not exclusive to Boston. You can say that about LA. You can say that about, New York. There are certain teams in this league where, yeah, this is just a big deal. And Boston is certainly at or near the top of that list, depending on who the player is. So it is going to be different. And maybe that inspires him. Maybe the way he got traded, like he got moved for Drew Holiday, who's a really good player, but it's like Drew Holiday's career is over in a few years at most. So instead of being like, hey, I want this big payday, the team that drafted you dumped you. And so there could be a little bit of a kind of wake up call. There could be, again, I'm engaging in wishful thinking per Tim's request. There could be some level of, hey, I will be a solid defender, but there are limitations, right? His size, there are limitations there. He's not going to be a lockdown guy. What you're hoping is that he can go from just to passable. And if the Celtics see it as like, hey, we can win a championship with him, then you start to make decisions. And that would make getting under the tax this year, maybe you would say, hey, that makes it more important, but there would be a little bit of a restructuring. Maybe you do just end up moving Sam Hauser and one of the minimum guys to get under the tax, and you get a payout from the league because you're not a taxpayer. You get a little bit of the tax payout. And you say, okay, next year we're going to just be a little bit more expensive, and you go with that group. I don't expect any of this to happen, but if he really clicks with everybody, you do have to consider keeping him. So what I think is they will not give him the full opportunity to be like, fully click. Like I don't think they're going to take that chance. And I say that kind of joking. I just don't expect him to fully click and be that guy. But if he does, then other guys will move. They will try to come up with some sort of extension and try to keep him around. And because you traded for him, you get bird rights, so you can kind of pay him whatever. And then you look at other players, other places, Peyton, Sam, one of the other bench guys to get your financial kind of house in order. Nick says Jaylen Brown led the league with 1.28 points per possession in post-ups, including passes. Knowing the Celtics are an analytically driven team, I would love to see Jaylen Brown primarily operate in the post next season. So the theory here is that there's a lot of shooting around him and he operates out of the post. Now, this is an interesting kind of scenario where the few times he does not post up very often. And so the few times he does post up, he's successful. And always when that happens, the question becomes, well, if you give him 5 more of these, will he have similar success? Or is it successful because he goes to it at selective times? I tend to believe that it is successful because he's a little bit more selective with it. What does he do out of the post? He does pass out of the post some. A lot of times it's that step back, that real kind of extreme fadeaway where he jumps like 5 feet backwards and hits those fadeaway jump shots. That's fine. And I love posting these guys up, Jaylen and Jayson, especially because, in late game situations, because I think it's a great way to get some good looks, high percentage looks at a time where, as I always say, you just need to make shots. Fourth quarter with a lead, posting up a guy like Tatum and Brown, I think gets you a chance at some really good results. So do I think Jaylen should just become a primarily post player? No, I think he should be selective with that. But getting him into the post, I'm a big post up guy. Now, you got to understand that post ups in 2025 aren't what post ups were in 1985. In 1985, those were, bigs, Kevin McHale going up against Patrick Ewing, right? The bigs against bigs. And that's what you did. You got the ball close to the basket. You made a move. You took a short shot, and hopefully you shot a high percentage on that. Post-ups nowadays are a mismatch, right? You're punishing mismatches. So another thing to consider with these points per possession is Jaylen posts up mismatches and uses his strength to power through those guys and get good looks. Just saying we're going to run something for Jaylen to post, if he posts up against a similar size player or a bigger player, now you're looking at something different. I love the way he does the kind of like an up and under, like the fake and step through. That's a great move for him. Mix that into the arsenal, put that in the bag for sure. But don't go overboard. That's where I'm with this kind of theory here, Nick. Don't go overboard. Let this kind of play out. Let him find the mismatches. When he does have the mismatch, you can take it into the post. But don't just say, hey, we're going to post them up a million times. Run some stuff. Get him into the post. Sure. Passing out of the post, I love it. And he can do some things in there that I like. But not a primarily... That should not be where he primarily plays offensively. We're going to come back and talk about the steps the Celtics need to take to prepare for the future. Just a second. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th. That is tomorrow. That is Tuesday. It's officially FanDuel Futures Day. A brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions. Bold predictions are big. People love making bold predictions. And now for just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So take advantage. You can take a flyer in the MVP race. You can crown your champion now. Or you can parlay your division winner dark horses. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. Make sure you're using the tools that are available to you. They have tools so you can set your limits and set your budget so you aren't going overboard. Nobody wants you to go overboard. If you hit a losing streak, not a problem. Your limits kick in. Come back when you get more money. That's okay. It's disposable income. This is just supposed to be fun. So visit the FanDuel app. And Futures Day is August 26th. So that's tomorrow. It's one day only on FanDuel. Play your game. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out the Locked On NBA feed. There's 2 podcasts on that feed. Locked On NBA, Locked On NBA Game Night. I'm on Game Night on Fridays with Jake Madison. I wasn't this past Friday, but generally I'm there on Fridays covering the whole league. When the season starts, Game Night covers all the games. So if you want to stay up to date on everything that's happening in the NBA, Locked On NBA is the place to go. Let's get back to the mailbag. Again, johnkaralis.com/mailbag to submit your questions. Parker asks, what are the next steps the Celtics need to take to prepare for the future? There's no doubt that the team is starting to get into the end of phase 2, we'll call it. The first phase is everybody's young. They're, 19, 20, 24, 25, whatever. Then you get to like 25 to 30. And then everybody being post 30, you're the veteran team. So that final phase is around the corner. Jaylen Brown, we've been saying it a bunch. This is his final season as a 20-year-old. Derek White's already 31. So these guys are still young, but their best basketball, it's like only a few years left of their best basketball. And then there's Tatum, who, coming off the Achilles injury, I have a ton of confidence, but is he going to, I don't know. I can't say for sure that he's going to be what he was. I think he will be, but nonetheless, all these guys are going to start pushing 30, past 30. So what do you do? How do you prepare for this? This is where you start making decisions. Tough decisions. The future for the Celtics, like this season, is kind of critical in finding the right pieces to fit around Tatum, Brown, Derek White. And next season is one of the final seasons, not this season coming up, the season after, the 26-27 season. That, if it doesn't work then, the Celtics are going to have to start like making some tough decisions, like Derek White. And I don't want to see Derek White go anywhere, but we're starting to get into accepting your reality, right? Accepting your fate. At what point does Derek White become more valuable to the team in a trade that brings back young players, draft picks? There's an OKC model that might be part of how teams prepare for the future. And we know whenever a team starts to blow it up and rebuild, the trick is to get as many of these draft picks, to find as many first round picks, to get as many bites at the apple, as everybody likes to put it. You got to maximize your chances at getting your next star. And the way the CBA is kind of showing itself, the next stars are going to be available when teams start to get too expensive. And so as the Celtics start to be like, hey, we're going to have to move Derek, Jaylen, Jayson at some point. Like I just don't see Jayson Tatum spending his entire career at a point where, like, when he's in his early 30s and the Celtics are like, hey man, we got to be bad. We got to be bad so we can get top pick, because we need to get the next Jayson Tatum, the 18, 19, 20-year-old kid to come in and see if he can be the next guy. And for the Celtics to be as bad as they need to be at some point, not this year, but a few years from now, you never know when it's going to happen. You can't have a Jayson Tatum on your team when you're trying to be that bad, So you got to, at some point, be like, time to blow it up. And Tatum, unless some weird thing happens, and there's certainly not, I don't know how the CBA is going to fully take hold, but it seems to me that it's just going to be a constant churn. So the Celtics are going to have to start figuring out who sticks around and who gets traded. You're going to have to start looking towards the draft soon. So whatever trades they make, they're going to have to start trying to accumulate picks to kind of, with an eye towards the future. That's kind of where they're going to have to be, and not too far away. Chris, related question, says, I wanted to get your take on team building under the new CBA. If it were up to you, would you rather go with a stars and scrubs build where you can pay one or two superstars but the rest of the team is cheap, or a team with no supermax players but a roster full of solid fringe all-stars? Just a hypothetical, doesn't have to relate to a real team. So I think you need to have a guy. You need to have a guy that can create. The Shai Gilgeous-Alexander type. MVP, finals MVP, was just so damn good that he, force of nature. You're Jayson Tatum type of guy. But you need to find that one star. I think the future of team building under the CBA is one star, 35% max. I think the next step is your 25% max guy. And I don't think you can have two 35% max guys on the team. You have to have your big guy, you have to have your middle contract guy, and then you have to have enough money left over to pay your role players. Scouting is going to be at an absolute premium in this CBA. Pro scouts, international scouts, college scouts. You have to have, if it was up to me, I would invest more money in the scouting department than has ever been invested in my life, in team history. I would be we need to pick up every stone. We cannot miss on anybody. So wherever that is, you have to have people who live in Australia, people who live in, Northern Africa, Europe, South America, just live there, who work for the team, that can be easily deployed, maybe multiple people. However it goes, that's what I would need. I would need to find these diamonds in the rough all over the place. That to me is the most important thing that might come up under this new CBA is premium scouting. So your one superstar, your secondary star that isn't making 35% of the cap, 25% of the cap type of guy, and then damn good role players. That's, I think, how to maximize the window. You can do the other stuff too. Like the two superstar thing, you can do that. It's just that the window is shorter. I think hardworking, and obviously Indiana Pacers kind of blueprint a little bit. Hardworking, playing fast, a guy you can rely on, a guy that you can count on pretty well, as in case you need to go to him. I'm thinking like Pascal Siakam type. Like, he's not a number one guy, but you know what I'm talking about, right? That I think is the plan. All right, let's talk about championships, and if the Celtics need to win another one to fully deem the Tatum-Brown era a success. We'll do that when I come back. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. We've got a Locked On podcast for every pro team out there. So football season is just about here. Locked On Patriots. Go check it out. Or if you're a fan of any other team, Locked On, whatever your favorite team is. That applies to football, baseball, hockey, a lot of colleges. So just go searching for it. It's going to be there wherever you found Locked On Celtics. Let's wrap up this mailbag. Andrew asks, will both Jaylen Brown and Trae Young be Eastern Conference All-Stars? Who's more likely to make an All-NBA team? I think Jaylen is going to be the lock All-Star. I just answered in a mailbag about Derek White. I wrote about Derek White on Boston Sports Journal, whether he can be an All-Star. Think Derek White can also be an All-Star for the Celtics. Jaylen is the lock All-Star. Could Derek White kind of get in? I think he could get in maybe as an injury replacement, but he's going to be right there. I think his number is going to be good enough. But Trae Young, he just is. I can say what I want to say about Trae Young, but he tends to compile the numbers. His assists are going to be off the charts. He's going to have more weapons. So I can see Trae, especially if the Hawks are anywhere decent, top 4 seed, 5, something like that, then yeah, I can see Trae Young being an Eastern Conference All-Star. I think Jaylen is more likely to make an All-NBA team because he's going to probably do it with a little bit more efficiency. But I can see both those guys on the All-Star team. Michael asks, if the Celtics don't win another championship, will the Tatum-Brown era in the Tatum-Brown era, do you look at it as a failure? No, absolutely not. This has been a success. I think, I don't know. And I'm not saying this about Michael. I'm saying this just in general. Where this concept of you need to win more than one championship, I don't know where this is coming from, but winning one championship is very, very difficult. Very few players have won multiple championships. And the players that have are generally like the mega stars of mega stars, right? Or you've ridden the coattails and been on a lot of good teams like Robert Ory. But those days are gone. There's a new champion every year. And so circumstances change, especially in the second apron era. There's no guarantee. Like, the Celtics are on a downswing right now. Could they sneak in and maybe win another championship? Absolutely, they could. And if they did, oh wow, that would be just incredible. But winning multiple championships, people think that it's easy. Like, oh yeah, because people like to make these declarations. Oh, he's good enough to be like 1 or 2 or 3. Just they've won one. They've won a championship like that. Nowadays, 2025, you're stamped. That's it. So absolute success. Maybe one or both of them can do it again, and that would be great. If they don't look at it as a failure at all. That would actually really bother me. Like, people making, and I know people will make that argument. That would really that's you. I'm telling you right now, press my buttons. Calling the Tatum-Brown era a failure for having just won one championship would be just asinine. Peter says, I know it's been a depressing offseason. What are some fun games we can play this season to keep our spirits up? Try and guess Derek, Peyton, JB's season highs, Celtics themed bingo. Can we create new rivals for ourselves and pretend like the games against the Hornets really matter? Well, yeah, I mean, you could always, you can pick a player. I mean, look, I know we're a FanDuel thing. Maybe you can do like FanDuel without the money if you don't want to gamble, or FanDuel with the money if you want to gamble. But you can do stuff like, you can like guessing overs and unders on players per game is, yeah, you can have some fun with that. You can keep track. I think keeping track of like fun things like celebrations and, what are the different celebrations in different things. Like, you can have some fun with that. You can have some fun with, like a bingo game. You can do a bingo card easy, like Jayson Tatum Tech. Well, that would be later in the year. Jaylen Brown flex, or Jaylen Brown dunk, Derek White floater, Peyton Pritchard, 30-foot 3-pointer, you know what I mean? Like logo shot. You can have some fun with that. That could be a fun, like, social media thing to do. And you can like have like, yeah, I like creating new rivals. Look, you don't have to trick yourself into enjoying the games. You can just go and be like, the fun game that I like to play is, how good is this guy really? So look, your spirits, I know they're down, but this is an important season. I don't think this isn't like the Utah Jazz last year, where it's like, hey guys, this is bottoming out. We're going to have to come up with like these games to be like, hey, let's see if we can have some fun with how many times does Lauri Markkanen do this? And no, this is serious stuff. Like, as much as serious as basketball can be, but this is serious stuff. Like, we're trying to figure out, like, is Luka Garza a part of this team moving forward? Are these guys, who out there can, Brad Stevens trade for? Like, there is an attempt here to extend this championship window, and it's shut for this upcoming season, but it's not locked. You can pry it open and keep it open for another year or two. So I wouldn't be blowing off these games. I would be like, these are important things to figure out for the Celtics. And finally, Mike asks, I like this, appreciate this question, Mike. Any thoughts about writing a third Celtics book? If so, what topics are you considering? For instance, where are the 2008 players today? I am actually considering writing a third book. I am not going to divulge the topics. I'm just going to say it's probably not something you would expect. The problem with writing a book, like during the season, it's tough. And maybe some other things can come up, but I am kicking some ideas around. It would probably have to start work on it next summer. But I gotta be honest, like the two books that I did are not your traditional books that, there are some authors out there that are doing tons and tons of interviews and research and blah, blah, blah. The two books that I wrote were the Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars, still available, which is my opinion. And I just spent a lot of time writing, doing what I'm doing now, just words on a page, my opinions with, a couple of interviews, but nothing like crazy. And then the championship book was more a celebration and kind of like a reworking of a lot of the stuff that I'd been writing over the course of the season. So it's not your typical book. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm some New York Times best-selling author. I've written a couple of books. I'm dismissive about it a little bit because I just don't like, it's cool, but I'm not going to put myself up with some of these other authors. I don't consider myself an author. I'm a writer. But I am considering something else, which hopefully it'll come out. Hopefully we can work on it, but not anytime soon. Very vague, but I appreciate the question, Mike. All right. That's the mailbag. Again, johnkaralis.com/mailbag. That's where you submit your questions. I do appreciate everybody who has submitted the questions. I love getting them. I don't get a chance to answer all of them, but some of these are representative of multiple versions of the similar questions. And sometimes you submit questions that I haven't gotten to, and I naturally answer them in other podcasts. So it's something I say subscribe. Like, you got to listen to all the podcasts, because a lot of times I've answered something that you asked on Monday. I'm going to answer it on Friday, just organically. So subscribe wherever you get your podcast. You can watch the show on YouTube. Love for you to do that. Get into the comment section, share your thoughts there, and then share the podcast. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.